What if the most famous tomb in history wasn't meant for its occupant? Imagine, buried beneath the golden mask and dazzling treasures lies a story so tangled with political betrayal, hidden chambers, and an untimely death that historians are still arguing about it more than 3,000 years later. Tutankhamun, the boy who wore a crown before he could wield a sword, has become the most recognized pharaoh in the world. But behind the fame is a chain of strange events: a rushed burial, artifacts that might have belonged to someone else, and modern scans that reveal injuries almost too bizarre to believe. And as new technology peers deeper into his tomb, one question refuses to die: was the boy king's short life an accident of history, or a carefully hidden crime? The boy who became pharaoh. Tutankhamun's rise to power was anything but ordinary. Around 1332 BCE, a boy of about 9 years old suddenly found himself wearing the double crown of Egypt. His father, Akhenaten, had appended centuries of tradition, replacing Egypt's vast pantheon of gods with the worship of a single sun deity, Aten. This radical shift left the kingdom fractured, temples abandoned, and powerful priests seething for revenge. DNA studies now suggest Tut was likely the son of Akhenaten and Akhenaten's own sister, a practice common among royalty to keep the bloodline pure, but one that may have had devastating effects on his health. As a child, Tutankhamun walked into a world where religion was politics, and politics was survival. The boy king was surrounded by ambitious adults, advisors like a seasoned courtier, and Hormheb, a military commander, who could make or break his reign. And while he wore the crown, it's likely they were the ones truly steering Egypt's future. But the kingdom was far from stable, and the changes these advisors would push through would define Tut's legacy forever. The kingdom in turmoil. Egypt under young Tutankhamun was a kingdom trying to glue itself back together. Akhenaten's religious revolution had stripped the temples of their wealth and power, shuttered sacred sites, and alienated the influential priesthood of Ammonius. One of Tut's first acts as pharaoh, likely urged by and Hormheb, was to restore the old gods to their rightful place. Temples reopened, statues of Ammonius were rebuilt, and the traditional worship system was reinstated, a move that earned the boy king the loyalty of the religious elite. But beyond Egypt's borders, trouble brewed. Surviving letters suggest diplomatic tensions with neighboring powers, the Hittites, Nubians, and others, threatened the fragile stability. Some records hint at desperate pleas for alliances, perhaps even marriage proposals, to keep enemies at bay. Inside the palace, the balance of power was delicate. Tutankhamun's youth made him a symbol, a unifying figure, but also vulnerable. Every decision carried the fingerprints of his advisors, and in this dangerous game, loyalty could shift overnight. And yet, the real cracks in Tut's reign weren't just political. They were written into his very body: health, scandals, and strange injuries. For decades, Tutankhamun's death was shrouded in speculation. Was it an accident, an assassination, or the result of a lifetime of hidden illnesses? Modern science has pulled back the veil, but what's been revealed is just as mysterious. CT scans and DNA tests show the young pharaoh suffered from a cleft palate, a curved spine, and a severe clubfoot that likely made walking painful. Evidence of multiple strains of malaria has also been found in his remains, hinting at a weakened immune system. Then there are the strange injuries. Some researchers point to a massive fracture in his leg, possibly from a fall or chariot crash, that may have become fatally infected. Others have noticed signs of his body being burned after burial, possibly due to a chemical reaction from hurried mummification using flammable oils. This has fueled theories of a botched ritual, or worse, a deliberate attempt to erase him from history. Whatever the cause, Tutankhamun's death came suddenly, and what happened next would be unlike anything in Egypt's royal tradition. The tomb that shouldn't exist. When Howard Carter first peered into Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, he famously said he saw wonderful things. What he didn't see, at least at first, was how unusual the tomb itself was. For a pharaoh, Tutankhamun's resting place was surprisingly small, more like the burial of a noble than the ruler of the most powerful kingdom on earth. Its walls were hastily painted, some artwork even unfinished, and the arrangement of rooms felt Improvised. Many Egyptologists believe the tomb was never meant for him at all. One theory suggests it was originally prepared for a woman, possibly Queen Nefertiti, and repurposed at the last moment after Tut's sudden death. Radar scans in the last decade sparked rumors of hidden chambers, with some researchers claiming there might be another burial concealed beyond the walls. Later studies cast doubt on these findings, but the debate still lingers. One thing is certain: the way Tutankhamun was buried raises more questions than answers. And those questions only multiplied when a strange string of events began after his tomb was opened. The curse and media frenzy. It began as a whisper, a rumor passed between journalists and archaeologists in the days after the tomb's discovery. Within months, it had become a full-blown global sensation, the curse of the pharaohs. The story went that anyone who dared to disturb Tutankhamun's rest would meet a mysterious and untimely end. When Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's financier, died suddenly from an infected mosquito bite shortly after the tomb was opened, newspapers seized on the story. They linked other unrelated deaths of people connected to the excavation, weaving a narrative of supernatural revenge. In reality, most of the excavation team lived long, healthy lives, but the curse was too sensational to let go. Far from damaging Tutankhamun's reputation, the curse myth turned him into a worldwide phenomenon. People who had never heard of the boy pharaoh before were now captivated, and Egypt's ancient history became front-page news. But as the hype grew, scholars were still uncovering more tangible mysteries hidden among his treasures. Artifacts and secrets still emerging. Even after a century, Tutankhamun's treasures are still giving up their secrets. Take his iconic golden mask, long considered the face of the boy king. Close examination shows it may have been altered, with subtle differences in craftsmanship suggesting it was originally made for someone else, possibly a queen. The inlaid gold, gemstones, and even the proportions hint at a hurried reworking, as if the artisans had little time to prepare a mask just for Tut. Recent analyses between 2020 and 2023 have also traced the origins of some materials in his tomb to faraway lands. Lapis from Afghanistan, cedar from Lebanon, showing the vast reach of Egypt's trade network even during political turmoil. Other items, like daggers made from meteoric iron, suggest a fascination with rare and symbolic materials. Yet these wonders also highlight a puzzling reality. Many objects in the tomb seem mismatched in style and size, as if they were hastily gathered from other burials. It's a pattern that reinforces the theory of a rushed, improvised burial. And if Tut's death was as sudden as the evidence suggests, the scramble to fill his tomb might have been just the beginning of the palace intrigue. Final days and legacy. Tutankhamun's final days remain a puzzle woven from fragments of evidence and whispers of conspiracy. His death, somewhere around the age of 18 or 19, left Egypt in the hands of advisors who moved quickly to secure their own positions. I, the aging courtier who had served Tut's father, stepped into the role of pharaoh almost immediately, even marrying Tut's young widow, Enkhesenamun. Surviving correspondence hints at Enkhesenamun's desperation. In one letter to the Hittite king, she pleads for a foreign prince to be sent to Egypt so she can marry him, bypassing I altogether. The prince began the journey, but never arrived. According to Hittite records, he was killed en route, a political move that conveniently left I unchallenged. Horemheb, the military commander, would later seize the throne from I and erase almost all mention of Tutankhamun from official records, as if the boy king had never existed. And yet, through the treasures in his tomb and the myths that surround him, Tut has become the most famous pharaoh in history. But fame built on mystery leaves one final question lingering in the desert air. Was Tutankhamun's short reign a tragic accident of fate, or the result of a carefully orchestrated plan that's still hidden in the sands of Egypt?